Saudi Arabia: A Country Study by Dylan Jorgensen and Daniel Charon. Geography. Saudi Arabia is located in Western Asia and comprises the bulk of the Arabian Peninsula, which is the vast territory that lies between the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf. Background. The story of Saudi Arabia begins in 1744, when Abdul Wahab Muhammad, founder of the religious movement known as Wahhabism, formed a religious political alliance with Mohammed bin Saud of the House of Saud and sealed the deal by wedding off the daughter of Abdul Wahab Muhammad to the son of Muhammad bin Saud. A pact that has lasted centuries to this day. History 1744 to 1818. Emirate of Diriyah is the first Saudi state. It was established in the year 1744 when Muhammad ibn Abd al-Wahhab and Prince Muhammad bin Saud formed an alliance to found a socio-religious reform movement to unify the many states of the Arabian Peninsula and free it from Ottoman rule. History 1819 to 1891. The Emirate of Najd was the second Saudi state, existing between 1824 and 1891. History 1892 to 1932. Ibn Saud defeats the Rashid Empire and retakes Riyadh. This marks the beginning of the third Saudi state, which evolved into present-day Saudi Arabia. The picture here is of Mazmak Castle in Riyadh. History 1932 to present. Saudi Arabia is established after most of the Arabian Peninsula is captured by the House of Saud. The picture listed here is the emblem of Saudi Arabia. King Ibn Saud was the founder of Saudi Arabia. He was the first king. He named the kingdom after his family. He ruled until his death in 1953, and he has fathered all subsequent kings of Saudi Arabia to present day. King Saud was the second king of Saudi Arabia. He was king from 1953 to 1964. He was forced from the throne for his inadequacy and replaced by his brother Faisal. King Faisal was the third king of Saudi Arabia. He served as king from 1964 to 1975. He served as Prime Minister of Saudi Arabia prior to becoming king. While Crown Prince in 1962, Faisal outlawed slavery in Saudi Arabia. Faisal directed Saudi oil minister to negotiate ownership stake in Aramco. King Faisal was assassinated by his nephew in 1975, ending his reign as king. King Khalid then took over. He was the fourth king. He served as king from 1975 to 1982. During his reign, Saudi Arabia saw huge developments in the country due to increases in oil revenues. King Fahd was the 5th king of Saudi Arabia. He was the king between the years 1982 and 2005. King Fahd is credited for having introduced the Basic Law of Saudi Arabia in 1992. King Fahd suffered a stroke in 1995, and he was unable to fulfill his official duties following said stroke. King Abdullah then took over for King Fahd. King Abdullah was the 6th king. He was king between the years 2005 and 2015. He implemented many reform measures, including allowing women to compete in the Olympics for the first time. Following King Abdullah's death in 2015, King Salman took over, and he has been king since. He is the current king. His major initiatives as king include the Saudi intervention in the Yemeni civil war and Saudi Vision 2030, which is a plan to reduce Saudi Arabia's dependence on oil, diversify its economy, and develop public service sectors such as health, education, infrastructure, recreation, and tourism. The current crown prince is Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He is currently thought to be the real power behind the throne. He is behind many modern reforms in Saudi Arabia, including women drivers, cinemas are now allowed in the kingdom, sports stadiums are now open to Saudi women, and music concerts are now allowed in the kingdom. Capital and major cities. The capital of Saudi Arabia is Riyadh, with a population of 5.3 million. Major cities include Jeddah, population 3.5 million, Mecca, population 1.7 million, Medina, population 1.2 million, and Al-Ahsa, population 1.1 million. These are images of the cities of Jeddah and Riyadh. Moving on to government. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is an absolute monarchy under the Al Saud family. Saudi Arabia has no formal written constitution. The king of Saudi Arabia is bound by the Quran and Sharia law. Elections and political parties are forbidden in Saudi Arabia. There are an estimated 7,000 princes, and as the absolute ruler, the king performs executive, legislative, and judicial functions for Saudi Arabia, which is quite unique. The king receives advice and counsel from an ulama, or council of learned religious scholars, headed by the Al-Ash Sheikh family. The Al-Ash Sheikhs are descended from Muhammad ibn Abd al-Wahhab, who founded the strict Wahhabi sect of Sunni Islam in the 18th century. The Al Saud and Al-Ash Sheikh families have supported one another in power for more than 2 centuries, and members of the two groups have often intermarried. Judges in Saudi Arabia are free to decide cases based upon their own interpretations of the Quran and of Hadith. In fields where religious tradition is silent, such as areas of corporate law, royal decrees serve as the basis for legal decisions. Compensations in legal cases are determined by religion. The population of Saudi Arabia is approximately 33 million. 5.5 million of that total are non-citizen guest workers. And the Saudi population is 90% Arab, including both city dwellers and Bedouins, while the remaining 10% are of mixed African and Arab descent. The official language of Saudi Arabia is Arabic. However, there are three major regional dialects, the first of which Nejdi Arabic, with about 8 million speakers in the center of the country. Also, the second most spoken language in Saudi Arabia is Hijazi Arabic, which is spoken by about 6 million people in the western part of the country. And lastly, Gulf Arabic, with about 200,000 speakers centered along the Persian Gulf coast. The official religion of Saudi Arabia is Wahhabism, also known as Salafism, an ultra-conservative form of Sunni Islam. Any non-Muslim attempting to acquire Saudi Arabian nationality must convert to Islam. 75 to 85% of Saudi Arabian citizens are Sunni Muslims. 10 to 15% are Shia Muslims. More than 30% of the population is made up of foreign workers who are predominantly but not entirely Muslim. Religious minorities do not have the right to practice their religion in Saudi Arabia. And Saudi law requires all citizens to be Muslims. Climate. Saudi Arabia has a desert climate with extremely hot days and steep temperature dips at night. They experience large sandstorms. And the highest temperature recorded in Saudi Arabia was 129 degrees Fahrenheit, and the lowest temperature ever recorded was 11 or 12 degrees Fahrenheit, rather. Economy. Petroleum makes up 80% of the kingdom's revenue and 90% of its total export earnings. About 20% of the world's known petroleum reserves are in Saudi Arabia. The Saudi Arabian government forbids publication of poverty figures, which is interesting. And the Saudi Arabian's currency is the rial. Saudi Aramco. Saudi Aramco is the most profitable company in the world, according to Bloomberg. Originally, it was a partnership between American oil companies and Saudi Arabia. In 1950, a 50-50 partner sharing agreement was signed. By 1988, Aramco was officially bought out by Saudi Arabia and became known as Saudi Aramco. Imports and exports. As previously stated, mineral fuels, including oil, comprise the bulk of their exports. followed by plastics, organic chemicals, ships, boats, and aluminum. And machinery, including computers, electrical equipment, electrical machinery, vehicles, pharmaceuticals, articles of iron or steel are the bulk of their imported goods. Time permitting, here is a excellent video I found on YouTube going more into depth on the history of Saudi Arabia. Thank you.